Hello my fellow engineers, today we're going to analyze the Musai-Class cruiser. But before we dive into the specifications to determine whether we can recommend the Musai as a reliable warship, let's first take a look on how it became Zeon's mainstay vessel. After developing its first combat-ready mobile suits, Zeon needed a reliable way to transport them into battle, as well as a platform that could provide support functions such as maintenance and rearming. So sometime between UC-0075 and UC-0079, Zeon experimented with several methods and tested multiple prototype designs, and their answer was the Musai-Class cruiser. Compared to the already existing Chevy-class, which was an older and more heavily armed warship, the Musai was a lighter cruiser whose biggest advantage was its ability to deploy mobile suits. It initially functioned as a mini carrier, the first of its kind in the Universal Century. Throughout the One-Year War, Musai cruisers served as a rear-line support vessel for Zeon mobile suits, providing long-range firepower with powerful megaparticle cannons, while acting as the primary launch platform for its mobile suits operations. The Principality of Zeon relied heavily on the Musai and in many of its variants, all the way to the end of the war. Now that we've given you an idea of what the Musai is, let's put some data together and create a scorecard. The Musai will be the first warship that we evaluate and rank to determine how reliable it truly is. In today's video, we're going to break it down across 5 key categories: weapons, armor, mobility, versatility, and mobile suit handling capabilities. The Musai enters service equipped with 3 powerful forward-facing twin megaparticle guns. These cannons were strong enough to threaten even the Federation's heaviest warships, including the Magellan-class. However, despite that firepower, the Musai had no true point defense or anti-air weapons. Its only defensive options was a set of small missile launchers, and for additional anti-ship and anti-fortification capabilities, it also carried large missile launchers. Now on paper this sounds fine, but in practice, the Musai's armaments is actually pretty light and limited. But all of his weapons are forward-facing, and his turrets, they could only cover about 180 degrees, with a notable blind spot directly below the ship. While I do give the Musai credit for having extremely powerful beam cannons, those cannons are too powerful for their own good. They require several minutes to recharge between shots, leaving the ship with only its missiles for defense. And if the Minuski particles density is high, which it almost always are, missile accuracies become unreliable. And things only got worse once the Federation's mobile suits enter into the war. To make room for larger Gundam units, Zeon reduced the main guns from 3 turrets to 2, sacrificing firepower to increase mobile suit capacity. While this did allow the Musai to carry an additional Zaku or fitted Gundam into the hangar, it had undeniably weakened the ship's firepower. To me, the complete lack of anti-air defense and the strictly face-forward-facing weapon layout makes the Musai seriously undergunned, combined with its overpowered cannons that takes way too long to recharge, and the score does take a hit. So for the weapons category, I'm gonna have to give the Musai a 4 out of 10. Its cannons are strong, but it doesn't justify the long recharge, and that one extra point, to be honest, is for the possibility that the 2-turret variant reduces the strain on the reactor, allowing a slightly quicker firing cycle. Now onto armor. Now let's talk about the pros, and I'll fold some design choices into this as well. The Musai is propelled by 4 thermonuclear engines mounted at the end of its 2 nacelle columns, extending below to the sides of the bridge. Now this layout keeps the failing engines away from the crew, the mobile suit hangar, and the ship's reactor. I have to give the Musai credit here. This is a solid safety measure. In fact, the idea was good enough for the Federation to eventually adapt something similar with the separate engine designs on ships like the Alexandria and the Musai-Class. Now, I truly believe the reason why Zeon went with this design choice was so that way it could keep more room for his mobile suits, since the Musai is somewhat of a cramped design. And here are the cons. The Musai was designed to hang back, deploy his mobile suits, and support them from a distance. To build a mobile suit hangar directly under the bridge section, the ship's central structure had to be hollowed out, creating a large internal cavity, and this likely made the Musai weaker along with his size and undersides. Now, we see this reflected into the series where the Musai is often destroyed in 1 or 2 hits from Federation ships or even from the Gundam's beam rifle. And it's clear the Musai prioritized mobile suit capacity and beam firepower over its armor. Zeon Navy Design's philosophy at the time seemed to be focused on fielding as many mobile suit carriers as possible. And if they had made the armor thicker, the already cramped mobile suit hangar would have become even more limited. So the Musai ended up lightly armored by design, fast enough and strong enough at range, but fragile up close. But I will give it that one extra point for the nacelle mounted engines influencing the future warship designs, but it's not enough to offset the fact that those same nacelles made the ship a larger and more exposed target. So for this category, I'm going to give the Musai a 5 out of 10. Average feels like the fairest score here. For mobility, we've seen the Musai demonstrate, surprisingly good agility for a light cruiser. Its acceleration is pretty solid, it's often faster than the comparable Federation ships, and this may be due to a few factors. The Musai becomes lighter after deploying its mobile suits, it carries a few less weapons compared to heavier cruisers, and its overall designs avoids unnecessary mass. Its thermonuclear rocket engines are large, and being separated from the main body, it gives Zeon engineers the freedom to size them for strong thrust without compromising the internal space. This design likely contributed to the Musai's respectable maneuverability on the battlefield. There isn't much more I could say in this category, but from what we've seen, the Musai performs well when it comes to movement and acceleration, so for mobility, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. The Musai was honestly quite versatile. Not only did it act as a small carrier for Zeon mobile suits, but it was also capable of launching HLV craft, which were mounted behind the ships between the engines. Its cruising range could be extended even further with the optional addition of 2 large external propeller tanks, giving it greater operational endurance on long missions. The Musai also featured a dedicated shuttle dock at the front of the ship for the Kumasai. Each Musai carried one of these shuttles and could transport personnel, mobile suit, even equipment down to Earth. The Kumasai also doubled as a secondary hangar, effectively increasing the Musai's mobile suit capacity by 2. The drawback, however, was that these additional mobile suits function more like spares. They could not be deployed until the Kumasai detached. Overall, I have to say the versatility on the Musai is actually quite impressive. From extending its operation time to act as a compact mobile suit carrier to delivering troops and equipment planetside, the ship had a surprising amount of flexibility built into its design. For this category, I'm gonna give it a solid 8 out of 10. If it had been able to mount extra weapons or even modular armaments, I might give it an extra point. The Musai was able to carry 3 mobile suits in his hangar and another 2 inside of the shuttle mounted up front. However, once the Rickdom entered into production, its bulk became a problem. A single Rickdom took up the space of 2 Zaku's in the already cramped hangar. And as we mentioned before, to work around this limitation, Zeon developed a Musai variant that removed one of the main turrets, freeing up additional internal space. And with this change, the Musai could carry 2 Rickdoms and 1 Zaku, or if it carries Zaku's only, the 2 turret variant could hold 4 Zaku's internally. Combined with the 2 reserve suits stored in the shuttle, some Musai variants could support up to 6 mobile suits in total. So depending on the variant, a Musai mobile suit capacity could range somewhere between 4 to 6. And now, here's the issue. The Musai was the first ship in history designed to deploy mobile suits, but it appears Zeon did not anticipate rapid mobile suit evolution during the war. The original hangar layout was clearly optimized for the Zaku line only. As new models appear, such as the Rickdom and the later Gelgoog, the mobile suit hangar in the Musai became increasingly limited. Zeon had to redesign the ship late into the war just to keep up. And this suggests that Zeon expected a short conflict and never planned on for continuous mobile suit rapid development. The Musai handled the suits of Zeon early on, but struggled with the suits that Zeon had developed later. And on top of that, you effectively lost access to 2 mobile suits until the shuttle detaches. And because of these limitations, I have to dock some points. And because you had to make accommodations for your mainstay ship in order to carry mobile suits later on, I have to give mobile suit handling a 4 out of 10. It's still better than what the Federation attempted late into the war, but the Musai was clearly designed around the Zaku and didn't scale well with Zeon's newer mobile suit lines. Overall, the Musai earns a 5.6 out of 10. It was a groundbreaking ship for its time, but that's exactly where its strengths ends. It was good for its era and not beyond that. If you try to bring the Musai into a later conflict like the Grips War, your fleet will be in a serious disadvantage. And yes, the Musai had powerful long-range firepower, but its survivability was weak. It was held back by slow beam recharge times and a complete lack of AA defense. If mobile suits or even just fighters get close, the Musai was simply couldn't defend itself. And because of that, I wouldn't recommend the Musai as a mainstay warship. At best, it works as a support vessel, or even a troop deployment ship for planetary operations. But as a frontline ship, I can't recommend it. And the Musai Kai later on fixes some of the major issues we discussed. Only minor improvements overall, but enough to put it leagues ahead of the original Musai during the 1-year war. But what do you think? Was I too harsh on the Musai? Did I score too low or maybe too high? And do you like the Musai's design? Personally, I always liked how it looks. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to see more Gundam content, hit that like and subscribe button. Farewell, my fellow engineers.